vibrations, sweet babies. How are we? I'm feeling the nudge to just like welcome you to take a deep breath with me. And we'll kind of drop into space before we pull some oracle cards today. So we're just gonna breathe in. I'm gonna do this too. Another one. Maybe one more. I'm gonna just invite the idea that you take some time for that throughout the day. I feel like today might be a day for some just mindful, deep breathing. I'm gonna just do an overall reading here with this reading, but I feel multiple things that I wanted to speak on, and I also just wanted to pre-record a couple of readings because I am going to be traveling and I have been missing hopping on here and doing these card readings with you. I definitely haven't been doing them as frequently, but I still try to get one out a week if possible. So I just shuffled and pulled some cards for us for this collective energy reading. Now, I feel like this is a kind of specific energy that I'm feeling into, so go ahead and check the description for all the symbols that I share. They can act as just a little bit beautiful of a confirmation for this reading and making sure that it feels aligned and resonant with you. I won't be offended if it does not resonate with you. I trust that it is going to find who it's meant to find. Okay. Okay. I am starting to really have this message come in clear. So, sweet love, you are worthy and deserving of so much love right now, and it is on its way back to you. I think you're someone who's very loving, very caring, very big-hearted. You lead from the heart space. And I just want to let you know that your angels, your ancestors, and your guides are bringing that back to you. You can expect to kind of receive messages or nudges from spirit. You might find a lot of synchronicities. Angel numbers are coming up for you. 1111, 111, 555 are definitely significant. Nines might be significant, 1010, and also 37. So yeah, I think you're going to have a lot of love being poured into you, and it's rightfully so. Like, you're not the kind of person that this is going to make you, like, having a lot of love given to you isn't going to change who you are. Like, you're not feeling like, let me get this clear. It's not adoration. It's not, I hope my seltzer isn't like making too much noise next to the microphone. I just moved that. It's not adoration. It's not surface level, like praise or, like attraction. It's not that. It's like literal heart space, good love and energy, okay? And this needs to start at the very first point of all of this with yourself. This has to be a self-love project that you're starting right now, because it's really going to act as just kind of like this initiator of like a reflection of how much love you're able to kind of welcome and receive and see around you. You right now, I feel like you're making a decision to work on healing something within yourself, even if it's like something little. I think you just made a decision to work on that healing, and that in itself was an act of self-love. And every time that you continue to show up for yourself and work on whatever this challenge is, you are giving yourself love. And this is something that maybe was a struggle in your ancestral roots, in your family patterns, in your family lineage. You might have had some people who struggle with this particular challenge that you made this decision to, like, what I'm seeing is kind of let go or like heal or work around. You've also made the decision to work on something with someone, or to ask for help, or you're just recognizing that you're not alone in whatever it is that you're working towards, whatever it is that I see this real importance of like working on healing and recognizing that sometimes loving yourself and healing from patterns or healing from whatever it is takes like literal work. It takes emotional work and mental work, and it does get tiring. Like, there is a level of exhaustion that comes from that. So I just don't want that invisible labor to go unnoticed, because I do think you are putting in labor to really improve something for yourself or for your life all around. I think that there might have been some issues with something repressed that is part of this inner healing that you're working through. I feel like a Gemini, Libra, or Aquarius might be somebody who was prominent in this sort of role, or took a role in seeing this challenge take shape in your life. This could have been somebody in your ancestral lineage, or it could just be somebody who kind of demonstrated certain things to you that might have played like a factor in the way you are around certain things, or something that you're feeling like is now creating a challenge for you. I feel like this had a lot to do with needing trust, or there's a level of trust that's needed in order to accomplish this. And like, when we do ask for help or we work on something with someone else, there is an element of trust that's needed for that. And right now I feel like whatever the healing work is that you're doing, it does have to do with this idea of trust. And it came out here around that air sign card, Gemini, Libra, Aquarius. And I feel as though, it's very easy to just kind of summarize quickly, like, oh, you did this and that betrayed my trust, and now it's hard for me to trust. But I feel like even the way that trust was displayed to you throughout your life can really shape the way that you trust people. And the feeling of trust and what trust looks like, I feel like is very individualistic, and individualism was a word that was coming up for me. I also feel like kangaroo is a symbol. I'm really curious like what that might be, or what that even represents, to be honest. But yeah, there is this feeling of like a deeper rooted thing going on around trust, and I think that's going to show up very specific to like each person who hears this. And I kind of feel like if you look way back at like where you started to understand the idea of trust, what was going on there? What were the things going on in your life that influenced the meaning of trust? And how have you defined trust throughout your life? Has it always been the same? Has it changed? What things might have changed that? But I have this feeling as though if you look way back in your roots of the idea of trust and feeling trust, there was this element of we need you. And because of that feeling, it's difficult to trust in some way, or trust is not easily earned or given or whatever, but that deep feeling of like, we need you, and that however that shaped your idea of trust is probably needing some like reevaluating and working through currently. Because I think whatever is going on there that might have been repressed for a very long time, it's coming up to the surface and it's showing itself in some specific ways. And we're going to talk about this. So the main thing is that you are probably dealing with some distorted reality. Now, let me break that down because that does sound a little ominous and freaky. But when we are working from a place of our triggers, where we're feeling wounded, where we're feeling activated all the time, it becomes very difficult to have clarity on what is real and what is actually going on around us. We're always entitled to our truth, right? But it's that feeling of when we have that loss of truth, where we don't know what's real. If our emotions are taking precedence, or their past wounds, our past experiences, our past traumas are making it cloudy for us to know, are we really acting in the way that we need to be? Are we really thinking about things clearly? Are we really making the right choices in life? And that is not a gaslighting from anybody else, right? It's just this internal loss of truth, and it makes our connection and our perception of reality distorted. Now, that's not to say that you have completely lost grip of reality, but it might feel as though you're not connecting with the depths of the reality in your life in the way that you could be, or that you maybe once had. And I feel like this is a little like nudge from your angels, ancestors, your guides, the divine itself. Like, go touch grass, like go be in nature. Like, I have my shoes off. It's been really warm, so I've been wearing a lot of sandals. My sandal, one of my favorite pairs, the strap broke. I'm gonna see if I can fix it, but at first I was sad, but then I was like, you know what, it's a gorgeous day, I'm just gonna take my shoes off. And I've been walking around barefoot. I have the ability to do that in this location, so that's great. But I am really going to encourage you to like go outside, go be outside, go touch grass. I'm gonna take a little sip of my seltzer. If you have a drink, something hydrating, coffee, smoothie, tea, whatever it is, go ahead, take a sip. Okay. So being outdoors is going to be really healing for you. Not only is it just good for the human body to be outside and in sunlight and breathing fresh air, if hopefully you're in a location where you can at least get to a park if you don't have a yard, or take a trip, go. This is very specific, but I was feeling this earlier before I even sat down to pull the cards. But like, Spirit is giving you the permission slip to like just go take a drive and be somewhere by yourself, like in nature. Like, rent a cabin, rent a cottage, camp, or whatever you have to do, and just like really be in nature. Like, unplug for a little bit. Because getting back to what these cards here say, I think whatever it is, we're really sticking to this theme of inner healing. Whatever you're working through here underneath the surface is really, I'm feeling like Spirit is really taking that as something important. Like, your angels, your ancestors, and your guides feel like this is worth doing a reading about. Whatever this decision was, it's showing up enough in your energy, and it's showing up enough in your path that there's more to this. And hopefully this is like some guidance 444 around this path that you're taking towards inner healing. Because I see that this has some kind of tie in with trust, right? We already said this, but I think it had a lot to do with impacting, what you thought was worth the risk. You maybe saw some risky choices displayed in your ancestral patterns or in your family systems or whatever. This could have been, bad money choices. This feels like, it does feel like bad money choices. And it does feel like maybe somebody, not everybody here will relate to this, but there was some sort of addiction or something going on that kept that stability kind of, unstable. So I think that by seeing like these major players of like stability and what's worth the risk, what's worth the investment, what's worth your time, there's this level of worth that might have been distorted for you throughout your life. And self-worth is self-love. So those things need to go hand in hand. If you're working on self-love, you absolutely need to go down the path of self-worth, right? And this is not ego-driven, this is self-love driven. So it's coming from the heart space. What are you worth? And this does not need to quantify in dollars, even though our nervous system might right away go that route because of if there was that financial instability throughout your life or something that you saw throughout your lineage, like that might be the initial thought process. Okay, I'm worth, $1 million. Okay, love that for you, right? But like at the end of the day, you're also worth a peaceful morning. You're also worth nights filled with laughter, and you're worth feeling safe and relaxed in the comfort of your lover's arms. You're worth a structured lifestyle that supports your balance of fun and stability, right? You're worth a beautiful, cozy bedroom where you can sleep peacefully, and a home that's suitable for your family. Like these are the real things that are worth your resources. And when you start to think about what the money really means when you look at that lens of like what you're worth, it's no longer about the dollars. It's more so about the value of your life. And I think that this is something that might play a part in your inner healing, right? Because where can we really start, 111 again, where can we really start to see value and abundance? I briefly talked about this in another reading that I shared before. So I think maybe some of the similar collective might show up for this reading, but the present moment, like the present moment, there is so much abundance and beauty and deliciousness in the present moment. And let me like go into that a little bit further, right? Because it's not just about going and touching grass, and I mean earthing, putting your feet on the earth and thinking about the sensual experience that you're having, thinking about the way that the grass feels on your feet. Does it tickle the tops of your feet? Feel the coolness of the earth, of the dirt, as you wiggle your toes around further into the grass. Or if you're in a mud puddle, let your in between of your toes feel that mud get in between your toes, and the coolness and the roughness of the little pebbles. And maybe there's an ant and it glides over your big toenail, or be there, be in that moment. You are somebody who might do really well with a practice of mindfulness, or it could be extremely supportive for you to feel like you are I think truthfully, what I'm seeing in the cards is that mindfulness is like one of the greatest acts of self-love that you can give yourself in this moment. Okay, you can do the self-care. Yeah, that's great. But I think there is a level of care that only so many people are able to access, and that comes through mindfulness, true mindfulness, being present in the moment. You might be somebody who's around people who are very stimulated, you know, people who are like constantly like bouncing from like screen to TV to like you know, might be somebody who uses a lot of vices, or you might have people in your life who maybe just display escapism, not really talking about things, or, you know, very passive aggressive, like whatever it is. You might just be around people who are not able to be mindful and drop into the present moment, who don't actually feel safe to be present, right? And that's something that is a real strength. If this isn't something that you already actively practice, it's something that will really like be a strength in your life if you let it, by being able to be mindful of how you feel and where you're at and where others might be at. You know, it takes you out of this place of reactivity. And I know that's something that I could really benefit from when I'm using mindfulness. It's like, okay, I'm feeling my feelings, you know, I'm all about self-expression, right? But how can I mindfully move these feelings through my being and not just react, or, you know, just quickly on a whim, you know, just take the moment, take the time. And something that I love about mindfulness is that it does like reestablish a relationship with time. You're able to actually experience more time in your life because you're not lost in your head thinking about things, scrolling on a screen. It's kind of wild to realize when you do start a mindfulness practice how normalized it is for people to be completely disconnected and completely out of tune with their lives. And this was something that I knew was going to come through. It's time for you to tune in with your life. You might be somebody who naturally just like enjoys themselves, goes out, lives life and whatever. But it's time for you to drop in tune with it, or reconnect if this is something you kind of fallen away from. Slow down, have patience, pause, like be still. And like I said before, go get lost in the woods, go have solitude and like be in nature and reconnect to what the fuck it's all about. It's about life. It's about the fact that there's green showing up on trees again. There's flowers sprouting from the grass. The water is flowing from the rain. Like, the animals are coming out from hibernation, and like there's so much more to life than the little bubble that we find ourselves in on a day-to-day basis. And you know, I understand, you know, we have to live in this very 3D world where we have to pay the bills, we have to take care of, you know, whatever we have to take care of, but at the end of the day, we can really, right, we're distorted reality, loss of truth. We can lose the truth of what this all is. Take off your shoes, you know, go back to the just simple ways of life. Like really, I see you as somebody who if you're somebody who is a feminine identifying person, like you might be wanting to just like wear fun, freeing clothes and, you know, do some house labor and with all the windows open, or you're outside and you're wanting to like, you know, just you want to, like, I'm seeing like almost a homesteading type of energy. Like, in your perfect world, after you slow down, after you move through these things that you're struggling with internally, feeling like you don't know what's worth the risk, or maybe you're just struggling with your own finances, whatever it is, I just see that you in your truth could really use just some time where you're not surrounded by people, you are loving yourself, you're outdoors, you know, you have somebody who is trusting or trustworthy enough to work through whatever it is you're trying to work through. You feel loved, supported, you've got a lot of love pouring into you. And sometimes that feeling of a lot of love pouring into you comes from just being in the sunshine, right? Maybe you're at a park, maybe you're surrounded by grass, maybe you're like, I don't know why I'm seeing like a big field or whatever, but seeing that and recognizing that you got to be here. You got to be here for that. You got to see that. You should feel worthy in that moment that you are there. The divine conspired so many little factors in order for you to come into existence and for you to be standing there and taking it all in and breathing in all that air and living for another day. That right there, my friends, makes you feel loved. It makes you feel more loved than anything I can even think of, you know. And I've heard this quote before, you know, I always suck with quotes, guys, so just forgive me in advance, but like, the universe adopts the children who were abandoned. So I don't know how this might apply to you, but for some people, I think it might hit home. It did for me. I definitely dealt with some feelings of abandonment, which is why I feel like this "we need you" thing is very resonant for me in my life. I saw that play out. And I always say, like, when I'm pulling cards, I'm pulling for us as a collective. And I have nothing to hide. I'm fine with spilling my own tea if it means that some of these things can be insightful for you as well. So anyway, going back to this idea of just like, if you felt any kind of levels of like there wasn't something there for you, or there wasn't enough, or you needed something, or you needed someone, or there's some way that you felt like left behind or forgotten or something like that in your life, the universe took you in, the divine took you in, the divine taught you, right? And so it's time for you to come back to that. It's time for you to go be with life, not just people, and especially not just people if you had a lot of people around you who are very much not present, not able to drop in, not able to have that gratitude and appreciation for what life actually is, right? Find space, be alone, you know, take a real deep walk into the park or the woods or whatever, and just stay there for a moment and come back to that feeling of like, hang on, this is love. This is beauty. This is what being alive is all really for. You know what I mean? Of course, it's how we connect with other people. Of course, it's how we show up in our purpose. Of course. But we need to just really go back to the simple, like really learning to love the simple things in life. Not only is this healing for your healing for your nervous system, right? It's very regulating, but it also helps us to heal our dopamine receptors and all of our neurochemistry, really, because we have either been just like caught up in the go of life, or just caught up in the responsibilities of life, or whatever it is. I feel as though you might be somebody who's very responsible or has been very structured in your life. You've had a lot of independence. You've really had to take care of yourself. And so, you know, this asking for help or this working on an inner challenge with someone is kind of like a huge step for you. And I think it needs to be recognized as like, that is you offering trust despite what you have working against you, despite your past, despite your history, despite the traumas, despite the blah, 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 whatever showed up and influenced your idea of what trust really is and how you have it and how you give it and all of that, you are doing something that really is bringing the idea of trust to the surface for you, because you're asking to have help. You're asking to work, well with somebody. You're asking for somebody to be a confidant of sorts as you heal through this. So again, moving forward, I don't want to take up too much time with this reading. 37 as I tapped on the timestamp. Okay, so yeah, I think that it's really important for you to notice when to slow down. Notice when it's not the right time for something. Don't put yourself through too much. Take time to, like I said, go touch grass, to like literally figure out if you could unplug and reconnect back to mindful activities. Figure out like 5 that feel really good to you and start with those, and just try to, put more and more of those activities or more time for those activities in your life. And just like really unplug and be like, no, it's not the right time for me to be, taking another phone call for work. It's not the right time for me to be scrolling when I'm supposed to be hanging out with somebody, or it's not the right time for me to watch another episode of a TV show when I'm already like feeling anxious today. Notice when is the right time for things, and notice how time changes for you. Like when you're feeling rushed, or when you're feeling like you don't have enough time in the day, it's time for you to pause and be like, hang on a second, I'm not being mindful in my life. Like, this is not the right time. This is not the way that time's supposed to feel for me. This is not the way that I move through my life. And it's funny, like the more slowly and mindfully you move through life, it's like the more time opens up. And it's kind of trippy and makes me feel like, the whole time is an illusion thing, is not just, a little catchphrase there. Like, you could really influence your relationship with time. I think you have something that is taking up a lot of your focus, and it's time for you to kind of let it go and let it out in some way. And this is really going to make so much space and room, whether it's physically, energetically, mentally, or all of the above, honey. It's gonna make room for new life, new beginnings, not even new, it could just be more, right? And I feel like it could be more love, more self-love, more connection to life and the reality of life, right? That mindful focus of how much focus, wait, hang on. Let me try this again. I feel like you're going to be much more intentional around your focus, recognizing when you're mindful, you'll recognize how much capacity you can really give to other. Where is this reading going? My tongue is getting so jumbled up. And that's kind of what it feels like when you're not dropped in and you're not focused. You are so jumbled up, and the divine is asking you to just slow down, right? Take those deep breaths like we did at the beginning. Tune back in with what this is all really about. I know springtime, it just like enlivens everyone in this Northeast. I'm in Connecticut, and it's like, night and day. But anyway, you being more intentional about how much focus you are able to give to certain things in your life, or how much focus you've been giving to things in your life, is really going to shift. I see a huge change here around, your focus. And this is also, all of this reading is how you're going to show yourself more love, right? This is a loving thing to do. This might really return to you threefold, you know, with lots of love coming into your life, into your being, because yeah, understanding that we only have a certain capacity of attention, decision making, and you know, just thought capacity on a day-to-day basis really starts to bring this, you know, idea of to the forefront of like, what's the priority? What's my priority here? I'm focusing so much on this that I am using so much of my brain power that I know I only get so much of in a day. What am I leaving for the things that matter in my life? What am I really leaving? How much focus, how much attention am I leaving for the things that mean everything to me? Like, you know, if it's pulling us away from this truth of life, of this presence of life, of feeling connected, and you know, I gotta say that's everything. That's what makes somebody feel well-rounded, feel purposeful, feel whole, you know. And yeah, whatever, there's this real urge to let go of something you've been focusing on, because not only is it taking up so much of your attention and so much of your awareness, but it's also got you in this like laser pigeonholed bullseye type perspective of life. And I think one of the beautiful things that can happen is, you know, it really opens up this perspective of everything else that you have, of what you are missing out on when we get into this like laser focused type of vision. And I do see that this is probably going to impact your connections for sure. It's going to impact your heart space. If you're into astrology, I would say go look at your Venus and what Venus is up to in your chart. Also look at what house it's in, and see if maybe any of the stuff that you're working on your inner healing around is showing up to do with your Venus placement. Okay, and just to round it all out, yeah, right here, friends, okay? Right here in the cards, I'm seeing this has a lot to do with your connection, your relationships. If you're not in a committed relationship, this is really going to change just how relationships kind of play out for you moving forward. But I do see that it is your intention to have commitment, to have something that stands the test of time, something that's very intimate and very like a really deep chemistry. And that's not something that, you know, we can love people, right? We can care about people and we can have a good connection with people. We can connect with all kinds of people casually, right? And we can get to know people, we can fall in love, right? But there is only so much connection we can offer those people if we are not present. Whether we've got so much going on in our heads, life is taking up so much space, or we're just not being able to give something or someone enough focus, there is only so much connection that's available. And that real deep chemistry and connection, that intimacy, that I think you would find really healing, and I think that you would find as a way of having self-love, right? By loving yourself, that means that you have to be open and vulnerable enough to recognize that you're worth a really deep, intimate connection with somebody. Loving yourself is letting yourself be loved. Yeah. So I just needed to like sit with that for a moment. That can really only be found in the present moment. It's only available when we're dropped in, when we're tuned in, when we're like literally so there that we are recognizing our partner's breathing, or that we're actually listening to the heartbeat in their chest, or when we're hearing their words and we're listening to understand, not to respond, when we're just thinking about what that person's internal world might look like, what they might be thinking, feeling, going through because of this and this, right? How we can show up, not to the point that we lose ourselves, right? Because in this loving self-love relationship that we have with ourselves, we know that it's not just a one-sided thing. This is how we have that deep connection and intimacy where two people are able to support and take care and be conscientious of the other person. And it's like this union and unit more than anything. So yeah, I feel like a few things to keep in mind here, that there is some like recovery that's needing to happen, whether this is between you and another person, or this is really like self-love recovery, recovering what you're worth, recovering through this cycle, this lineage 111. Again, take action around this. This is something that you have to kind of really steer the ship around. You get to see this whole thing through, where you want to go, how you want to do it, and recognize that a lot of this is going to be directly influenced from your actions, from your choices. But you've made the choice, the decision to work on the inner healing. So you are recovering from whatever this inner healing is that needs to be worked through. But it also might take some recovery with maybe something physical. It could also be something with another person, like I said. I do feel like text messages were significant in the past or stirred the pot. I feel like Mercury retrograde is a significant time frame. You might want to be looking back on last Mercury retrograde, what was going on around that time. Maybe this is kind of what put the whole thing in motion or stirred the pot with this type of conversation. But I think it's very important, because timing is showing up so much in this reading, to think too about the upcoming retrogrades. The upcoming Mercury retrograde and the upcoming Venus retrogrades might be a time frame that you could be very intentional around and mindful of, and recognize that whatever's showing up in that time frame is there for a very specific lesson, right? Nothing's just mystically showing up to just poo-poo on your life. These are things that are being divinely orchestrated to show you a deep, profound lesson that you can either use to hinder your growth or accelerate your growth. I do think that there's going to be a lot of angel numbers and synchronicities that are going to act as little like nudges to let you know about the timing of your life, maybe to slow down, to be more present, or something to do with your intimate, deep connection, your loving connection, how you connect with others, how you love. Like I said, if you're in a specific committed relationship, you might be finding more synchronicities in your life, and therefore you might be synchronizing more with your person. I do feel like commitment is very important to you, and I do feel like you're somebody who really trusts in the divine timing of your life, and I think you're going to kind of sense the timing of when things are right for certain things. But make sure you're considering those Mercury retrogrades, because those will be a doozy, okay? And you don't want moments where you're supposed to be really working through something to connect further and to feel more intimate, to feel that safety, to be vulnerable, to trust, and all of that stuff, when you've got retrogrades are kind of how you see like what not to do, or what you don't want to happen, or kind of how to avoid certain things in the future. So just be, considerate of those things. Yeah, I think that you got a cycle here that you're working through at the current present, but I do see change ahead in this situation. Again, you are steering the ship with all of this, so your choices, your decisions here are extremely, extremely impactful right now. The cosmos are aligned in order for you to make these things happen. So I'm sending you all my loving, and I will talk to you soon.